She's dropping out. So
outside that window and you can barely. There's a backhoe looking right. I mean, right there. It makes the wrong move. Josh is had it. There it is. I think it's one of those lifts doing window work.
Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Stephen Ray, representing the Iowa Department of Public Safety. We'll go ahead and begin with some introductions. We'll start over to my extreme left, and we'll move around, then go out into the audience.
James Chambers. James Chambers, CenturyLink, Lars Telcom.
Tom Berger, Epworth Fire Department, representing the Iowa Firefighters Association.
Blake Trushow, Homeland Security Emergency Management, 911 Program Manager.
Mike Bryant from Ames, representing the Iowa Professional Firefighters.
Rob Rotter, Iowa County Sheriff, representing Iowa State Sheriffs and Deputies Association.
Sally Hall from Iowa County 911, representing Iowa APCO.
Bob Seibert from Shelby County, representing the Iowa Emergency Managers Association.
I'm Charlie McClintock from Cedar Rapids, newly representing NENA, the National Emergency Number Association Iowa chapter for Rob Coppert has resigned his position, so I will be a temporary fill until NENA officially appoints somebody at our October business meeting.
Jack D'Angelo, Sully Telephone, representing small telcos.
Could whoever's on the phone, if you could mute your line, that'd be great. We're hearing a lot of feedback and some coughing. Thank you.
George Griffith, Urbandale Police Department, representing the Iowa Peace Officers Association.
Visit.
Okay. And who do we have on the phone with us today?
Caitlin Jarzen with the Iowa Communications Alliance.
Okay.
Bobby Wells, Sac County.
Brenda Vandervoort, Fayette County 911.
Okay, I got Brenda on there. There was someone else.
Sorry, Jennifer Dennis, Hamilton Telecommunications.
Thank you.
Rick Brooks with Synergem Technologies.
Stacy Gross, Geocom.
Amanda Roush, Story County 911.
Eric Vaughn, Perry Police Department.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Again, welcome. I will be looking for approval of the July 13th minutes. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And approval of today's agenda.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I thought you were going to be gone. Are you just here for today?
Yes.
So if we're going to have a vacancy, in a quick review of the bylaws, looks like we should, if we're going to, we should have an election to refill your position, and then.
Oh, that could be done. Were you at the last meeting?
Yeah, I know that you said Bob had agreed to step up, but then we don't have a vice chair.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, at least I think we should have a discussion on how we want to move forward. with the vacancies. That would be my suggestion to add to the agenda if we could.
That's fine. We can add that to the agenda. Do we have a motion to add that to the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay. Approval for the agenda then?
So moved.
Okay, we have motion and second for the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Aye, opposed? Okay. State of our administrator reports, we're going to, before we start with Blake, we're going to recognize a longtime member of the council. That way, Dave, if you don't want to have to stay for the entire meeting, you don't have to, okay? Come over here in front of the... Dave, the council is presenting this award, presented to Dave Kaus, in grateful appreciation for your years of dedicated and outstanding contributions to the State of Iowa 911 program as a member of the State of Iowa 911 Communications Council from 1997 to 2017, 20 years of service. And I'm very proud to say that I've been with you about half that time. All right? So,
very few of us have been that.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, you
Thank
bet.
you very much.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate it. Appreciate your
it.
service. And Sally wants to take a picture.
Sally's gonna
So,
take a picture.
yeah. Okay. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Blake.
All right, I have a number of handouts today. You guys got those. If you can send them around for the council members and then pass them out to the audience once they reach the end, I would appreciate it. All right, give a second for those to get around. All right, so the first thing to point out on the quarterly reports, just a reminder, this is the quarter between April and June, and does include the end of the fiscal year as best as we could capture it at the time the report was run. So it includes all those costs that might have come in July that were attributed to last fiscal year. So I did have to add a couple of lines to the operating surplus summary because of the end of the fiscal year. So a couple of things I want to point out. In total, we paid just over $4 million in grants, the consolidation grants. So the way 34A is written, it was the $4.4 million cap, and that considered grants and the $100,000 for council travel, public education, and training. So if you look down below, you can see that's about $69,000 were spent on travel and public education, which basically left about $298,914.93 out of that $4.4 million. Again, according to 34A. And Ethan, I'm sorry, I was supposed to be putting this on the screen. If you can do the overhead projector for those on the call, perfect, thank you. So per 34A, we divvy that amount up by the number of PSAPs in the state and split it equally. So that amount comes out to $2,645.26 per PSAP. those checks should be in the mail. That did leave 55 cents that doesn't divide equally. We transferred that to the operating surplus. Basically, what that also means then is just under $14 million remain in the operating surplus. When you factor in the catastrophic reserve, there's about $10.4 million available in the operating surplus. And again, that's the money that we kind of have in mind for use of the capital investment involved in the wireline and wireless merging that the RFP is on the street right now for. I'm going to keep talking about the quarterly reports, but let you continue to look at those. And if there's any questions, by all means, don't hesitate to stop me. The other sheet that I handed out was the quarterly payments to the PSAP, so you can see exactly what each PSAP or each county service board received. The 60% of the total surcharge ended up to be about $4.3 million, and you can see the amounts that were provided to the county service boards. Of note, again, this is the second quarter we've done this. Mills County only received 65% of the dollar amount that you see listed, so 65% of the $29,990. And that is because they still have not submitted their data expenditure collection sheet for fiscal year 2016. Any questions on the financials? Yes, Bob.
Where does the interest go?
The,
Where does the interest go?
the interest ultimately basically goes back into the operating surplus.
Okay.
All right, continue to look at that. I'll take questions on it whenever you might have them. The next one I'm going to show is the Text 911 update. As you can see, that map is much more colorful than it has been in the last number of reports. We currently have 77 PSAPs capable of receiving text 911. And again, the caveat remains they might be in various phases of testing with the different wireless providers. So, a lot of them have gotten all the way through with the AT&Ts and US Cellulars of the world. But really, if they're colored green here, that just means we've established connectivity with Verizon. And like I said, they're working their way through the rest of that process. They might be able to receive all of those carriers, or they might just be up with Verizon or anywhere in between. And we have most of those other counties scheduled at this point as well. So we're still on track to basically be done with the project middle of October when those contracts expire with the CPE providers. Dubuque's going to have text later today, hopefully. We did decide to move the governor's press conference off until October when this map was a little bit more shaded altogether. That also allows the messaging to be a little bit more easy with basically what I just said, talking about the different wireless providers, give folks a little bit more time to get through all that testing. Just again, to make the messaging a little bit easier. So we decided to push that off until probably around October. Another reminder that we've asked for all of the service plans and bylaws to be updated. At a bare minimum, please remove the E's or enhanced from your plans and bylaws. That's basically just to keep up to date with Senate File 500. We've asked for those to be turned into us by January 1st. It would also be a good time to actually look through your service plans and bylaws and make sure that they reflect reality. Again, the easy way is to just remove all the E's, but while you're digging around in there, you might as well look to make sure it's accurate. Of note, this is just because it involves kind of statewide 911, I wanted to bring up a report that Nebraska commissioned that really affects the 5 PSAPs along the western Iowa and the eastern Nebraska border. There were some high-profile misroutes and mistransfers, so the Nebraska Public Utilities Commission decided to hire a vendor to do some study about call routing along the border. It was primarily focused in Nebraska. All the test calls were made in Nebraska, within a mile of the border. So that report has been released, and I am working with the Western Iowa PSAPs to make any improvements that were found on that report. There were both technological issues, meaning the towers might need to be re-examined, looked at, maybe point some different sector faces towards a different PSAP, but also double check, some of the operational training or what's programmed into the CPE for transfers as part of that process as well. So that report's out there. I just want to make the council aware in case you see it, because again, it was a statewide report that Nebraska commissioned. It's possible that you might come across your email or your desk at some point. So I wanted to make sure you're aware that I'm aware and working on those improvements. Another item of note, the federal government, Congress, both the Senate and the House have passed a version of Kerry's Law. And Kerry's Law is basically for MLTS lines or hotels, businesses, what have you, that have, often you have to dial 9 to get out. Kerry's Law makes it so you can dial 911 and get to a PSAP directly. It would make it illegal to have that 9 as a prefix to get out of the building. It's named after a young girl who tried to call 911 as her parents were being assaulted and couldn't get out. She couldn't reach help because she didn't know she had to dial 911. So right now the language in the two bills differ. So they have to marry up the language of the bills, but it sounds like that's probably going to pass with flying colors. So in talking with our legislative liaison, I don't think we'll have to do anything within 34A that really mirrors it. If the federal government does it, it'll apply in Iowa. I might have to send out some notifications, but we shouldn't really have to do anything to clean up our code language to make that happen. So wanted to let you know that is also on the horizon. One last note, because it is a new fiscal year, the $100,000 for the council's travel, statewide training, statewide public education has reset. So there is still $100,000 now available for those items. Again, with the policy we passed last year, if you're interested in any kind of over-the-top training, it just needs to get on the agenda for this council meeting. It'll get vote to be approved, and then you can train away. Any questions for me? Okay, I'll be here the rest of the day.
Okay. Did you want to go ahead with the logo?
Yes, that was one thing I forgot to print, so we're going to try to get fun with technology here. Just a second. Thank you. Good job. All right. Thank you for the reminder. We've talked about a new updated logo to kind of mirror the removal of the E or enhanced the last number of months. Rather than doing graphics by large group, we snagged a couple people that seemed pretty interested and knowledgeable on the topic, and kind of came up with the logo that you see in front of you with the wording and the font that you see in front of you. We did debate about the multiple colors representing red, blue, yellow, and everything in between. We really decided we liked the cleaner look. We looked at red first, and really, again, just decided we liked the blue instead. It wasn't choosing fire or law over fire. We just liked the color better than the red or the maroon that was previously suggested. So it's not really meant to be, it's kind of meant to be color meaning agnostic, if you will. So what you see in front of you is kind of what the group came up with. I think it's probably hopefully the final recommendation. I don't think there was going to be too much more back and forth. But if there was any big heartburn, of course, we'd take that under consideration. But other than that, I think this is the recommendation from the group, and we would take probably a motion to approve this and make this be the council logo going forward.
Okay, we have a motion. Okay, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, that is our new logo.
And now I'm done.
Okay, all right, very good. Thanks, Blake. Technical advisory, any technical issues from our technical, okay. Update on interoperability. Chris?
Before I get started, you guys did very well with that. It'll print off very nicely. Interoperability. I want to start off first by, again, saying that I'm excited to be here, and I'm also very excited today to recognize a new COML that we have in the state, Josh Humphrey. He'll be recognized today, and he's sitting in the back right there. I'm looking forward to working with him on projects going forward. So it's a tremendous amount of work to get COML, so I'm excited that we have another one in the state. Last month, the ISIX board passed a policy to support the I3 standard for Next Generation 911. It's very similar to a policy you guys passed a few months ago. So it went through pretty easily, and it seems like it's going to be good for everybody. Outreach to local county sheriff's offices and other police and fire departments has been ongoing regarding interoperability needs. A lot of the discussions focus on how to interface with ISIX, what their needs consist of. A lot of time, though, is basically spent listening to what their concerns are. The thing that I've found recently is that every county I've talked to has a different set of needs and wants and desires and also concerns. And as a SWIC, I'm taking it to heart that I need to work to address those and make sure they're heard and more or less not forgotten. So going forward, I'm always going to try to make sure that I take into account what the less populous counties need in addition to the more populated ones. The goal is to implement those needs and concerns into policy where we can, and if we cannot, we're going to take them to the national stage for standards integration. We found that a lot of the standards that are out there for LMR networks don't necessarily coincide with one another, or they're incomplete. So if we can fix those gaps, that'll help everybody out in the long run. We are going to be bringing forth some standards policies today. One will involve system login naming. Variances and waivers will be the second, and then maintenance of names and alias lists will be the third. So very interesting things there, but nonetheless they're required to run an LMR network. There will be some more discussion on the ISSI and encryption. I've been doing a lot of investigative work on this recently. It's probably taken up about 20 hours of the past month of my time just for the ISSI. I found that it's been useful in some areas under certain conditions, but as the SWIC, I'm still unsure of whether or not it would be a good solution for Iowa. The issues with it are wide-ranging from the scale and scope of the network. It seems to work great on really small networks, but when you start looking at aerial coverage, number of cores, number of users, then you get into system loading issues and everything else associated with backhaul and maintenance. So there are those things to address going forward. The lack of robust standards of the ISSI is another one. My preference as the SWIC, and I see this being echoed through some other organizations such as FPIC, the Federal Partnership for Interoperable Communications, that some of these standards do need to be furthered before an ISSI is integrated into a large state network that is expected to serve thousands of users and operate on multiple cores. So multiple cores is the key thing there. The encryption task group, that is something I've been working on the last month also to investigate the needs and potential uses of encryption on the statewide LMR network. I'm assembling individuals together with different backgrounds and different areas of the state that they serve, and we're going to come together to first define the needs and then figure out where we're going to go from there. So we're going to take a very pragmatic approach to it, and I think that'll come up with a policy and a solution that will work for everybody as much as possible. All this includes outreach to other states to see how they've handled encryption, and of course the ISSI, and of course much like Iowa where you have 99 counties and 99 different ways to do things, when you reach out to a state you come up with a different perspective and a different way of doing things as well. So I feel like with all this outreach that we'll be able to take the best from all the worlds that we're reaching into and combine them into something that's going to work well for Iowa. An update on the WISE report, that's Wi-Fi Internet for School Emergencies. That report has been drafted and sent to the Commissioner at the Department of Public Safety. I would imagine that that will be forwarded on to the powers that be before too long. And the end conclusion there is that there's a lot of potential there to enhance school safety by adding a law enforcement presence with absolute minimal cost. More or less, law enforcement personnel will just drive up to the school, upload their dash cam video, and then, go about the rest of their shift. The advantage with that comes in the form of sheriff's offices and state patrol and other local municipal departments where they may not have a fast internet connection, but they need to upload their dash cam or body camera videos. They can stop at a school with an ICN connection, log on to a private Wi-Fi network, upload their video, and then go about their way. It saves about a half hour of shift time per day. But when you start scaling that up to the number of officers or patrolmen or deputies that may be using something like that, the time savings and therefore extra time spent patrolling adds up pretty quickly. So it's something that scales up nicely. That's all I have at this point, so I'll take any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Okay, update from Office of Emergency Communications, Mr. Lundstedt.
Good morning, Chair Ray. Don't have a specific brief for you today. I would encourage you, and I'll brief the board on this, at a time of heightened political tensions in the world, I would encourage you as PSAP managers, operators, and public safety officials to be considering what are your contingent communications plans. We all know the potential for damage to macro networks, whether they're wireline, wireless, Ethernet, public or private, in the event of a wartime incident could be significant. And I would remind you of an acronym that I use every day in my planning. What is your primary, alternate, contingent, and emergency communications plan? Both for your PSAP and your family, to think about what will I do if this doesn't work or that on your desk doesn't work. What is your strategy? Just kind of a little simple reminder to say, be vigilant. I am not a prepper and I'm not a warmonger. I'm just telling you it's always a good thing. Really found it in my blood as a firefighter to always be thinking that next step. And I would encourage you to take a moment and do the same. When you go back to your department or back to your family, be thinking about what is the next step if my primary communications methodology fails. That's all I have. Any questions for me? Thank you.
Good advice. Thanks, Jim. All right. Any legislative topics? Okay.
Not really a topic, but on the way in this morning, listening to the news, the Iowa Utilities Board deregulated all telephone service in Iowa. What that's going to do, what impact it's going to have, I don't know. But stay tuned. I think 911 will definitely be affected in some ways. Legislatively, after last session, I was kind of hoping we could coast for a couple of years. And then I read the administrative rules where there were some language issues that instead of being resolved at the administrative level, kind of got kicked back for a legislative fix. So with the network that Blake is discussing for implementation next year, the bids are going to be opened on that September 1st. I would imagine that'll be a legislative issue as well. So we won't rest next year. We will have 34A open, and as we all know, when 34A gets open, some of the legislative items that weren't addressed or passed last year that people seem to maybe forgotten get brought back up. So it'll be another interesting year.
Bob. Okay, items for discussion. We do have a request from APCO for some training funds for their fall conference. Sally, did you have anything extra to add on to that, or? Okay, okay, all right. I think we pretty well have everything there that they've been asking, so.
Kara is here also. Did you have anything more to add about that, Kara?
Okay, very good. Well, I guess we'd be looking for a motion to approve that $4,000 request for the training. Okay, we have a motion? Second? Okay, I have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Okay, be approved. And I think here under items for discussion, we'll continue our discussion on election of officers. Mike, did you want to bring that up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to Bob filling in, wasn't anything about that, but if Bob fills in, then we don't technically have a vice chair. Just a quick review of the bylaws. I think it was number 5 mentioned that in the vacancy, the board would have an election. So I guess I just thought we should probably have again, to make it like we do a motion, kind of a formal thing, not opposed to like you had talked about filling in. I'm fine with all that. But then if we do that, then we don't have a vice chair. So then if all of a sudden Bob can't make it, then who runs the meeting or whatever. So I just thought it was a cleaner way to move forward, but not in trying to be against anything that was kind of previously talked about.
Sure. I guess I would ask, is there anyone here on the council that would be right now willing to step up to take over as chair? At the moment. Permanently, is what I'm asking.
Permanently?
Yeah. Beyond what we discussed.
Next election.
Yeah. That's what I'm asking. I guess the thought process was behind that it would maybe allow some time for people to not just have that thrown at them if they were willing to do it. I know that we have had an instance where Bob and I haven't been able to. I think, Sally, you've taken over a couple meetings as secretary.
And that's, according to Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, right,
So.
right. I guess one place that I would leave this at is if with the discussion we're having today, that leave that to Bob, but perhaps maybe put on the next agenda if someone would like to move ahead and make a motion that day to go ahead and elect a chair, permanent chair, or ask who would like to. You could do that, and of course it would become effective at that meeting.
Your term was up at the end of this year anyway in January, so
Yeah.
Or maybe it's, and that's fine. Like I said, I just was throwing it out there, and maybe it's as important to figure out if we have somebody that wants to be a vice chair.
Right.
Too.
True.
I mean,
True. Yep.
just hopefully wouldn't be a gap, but you never know.
Right.
So that's what I was just thinking of, keeping our positions filled.
Right.
So, one reason I brought it up.
And I haven't discussed with Bob how long his tenure will be on the council for the future. I'm assuming that if we did have somebody that would be willing to step up by the next meeting or even in subsequent meetings before the end of the year, that Bob would probably be more than willing to remain as vice chair until he's left his tenure on the council too. So, but unless anybody would like to take some official action today, I certainly feel that with some more thought, that this is something that you could all come to some decision with in the near future. But I'll open it up to anybody's thoughts or. My term would end December. Yeah. So. Thoughts?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I guess my thought would be that at the September meeting, if you're absent, I could assume the position of chair, and then we could vote for a vice chairman to fill until the elections in December would be in the best interest of the council.
That's totally acceptable. I will not be here in September. I can guarantee you that. So if that's acceptable with everybody, we can just go by a nod and a wink and we can move forward. So, okay. All right. There's no unfinished business. I don't have any travel requests. Oh, yes. I forgot about that. I didn't get that added. That was after this came out. So yes, grants. You all had the opportunity to review grants. I'm assuming that was Blake emailed out, and we've been looking for an approval of those. Okay, we have a motion. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. 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 Opposed? Okay. Is there anything else I'm missing that I didn't get on here? All right. Business from the floor. Any business from the floor? Yes. Yeah.
I do have business from the floor.
Okay. All right.
Wouldn't mind standing up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's my pleasure as vice chair and soon to feel your pain to recognize you for your service to the Iowa 911's Council as the chair.
Thank you.
And this is presented to Stephen Ray in grateful appreciation for your years of dedication and outstanding contributions to the State of Iowa 911 program as a member of the State of Iowa 911 Communications Council. 10 years, 2007, 2017.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Sally wants a picture. Sally wants a picture.
And it's perfect, the flag right there.
There you go. All right. Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it. Okay. Again, anything else from anybody? All right. Well, we will wrap up. Again, this is my last meeting, so I want to wish the council all the best in your future endeavors. I just started my 30th year, continuous year in this business, and I can tell you when I walked into the sheriff's office in Boone back in the summer of 1988 as a soon-to-be 18-year-old, but it was 2 weeks before my 18th birthday, I can tell you there was a lot of deputies that had big eyes going, this kid is our lifeline. But I quickly proved them all wrong, and I thought I was pretty good at what I did. I can tell you today, as a manager for almost 11 years, I couldn't sit down and do what my staff do today. I know how they get from point A and point B, and but I couldn't do what they do. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for our telecommunicators statewide that deal with 911 and radio and emergency services, and everybody in the public safety, from our peace officers to our firefighters to our emergency medical personnel. And it's been a great career. I don't regret one moment for spending nearly all of my adult life in this business. But the time has come for me to move on and do other things that are of great importance to me. And that's why I'm leaving. And that'll be in 2 weeks from today, will be my last day as a state employee. But I want to wish you all the best. I hope that this council continues with success. I hope that your funding remains, and you guys will succeed, and you'll always be an important part to me. So I bid you all farewell and thank you. And that's it. We're adjourned. Yeah, you bet, Bob. Appreciate it. Yeah, I would agree.